Welcome back to the Online Women's Basketball Summit. Today's guest is Kara Leary. Kara has built a successful program with the AAU New England Crusaders, and today we're going to be talking about the culture of AAU girls basketball. Kara, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the call.
Thanks, Jen. Glad to be here.
So let's touch on you as a basketball player. I know, obviously, you played for National New Hampshire. That's where we both grew up. And then you had a pretty good career at Notre Dame. So can we touch on kind of your career as a basketball player and everything you learned?
Yeah, I thought I was very fortunate. As Jen mentioned, I had an opportunity to play for the powerhouse national program that John Pagula built. I was actually a little late to the party. I didn't start playing basketball until I was a ninth grader. Typical, played a lot of different sports, but really started playing organized basketball as a ninth grader. Had the opportunity to come over to Nashville as a sophomore, and just really benefited from the competition that John had built within the program. As many people know, he won multiple state championships. I think he was up around 11 when he retired from Nashville. He got a couple more over at Londonderry when he came out of retirement. But more impressive, he sent well over 80 to 100 kids on to college, both from his high school program, but he was also very involved with National AAU. So Jen is one of his players who went on to star at Hofstra. I was fortunate to be able to go on to Notre Dame, but we're talking Stanford, Boston College, Iowa, Duke, among others, Sacred Heart, you can go down a list. So very fortunate to be in that environment. Coming out of high school, though, I was a little bit behind the curve and certainly had some things to work on. Was recruited regionally by Ivies and some of the local D1. But I was very academically focused as well, and got an opportunity to get out to Notre Dame as a sophomore through one of my relatives. I kind of really fell in love with the campus. So the way I landed at Notre Dame as a walk-on originally was we reached out to Muffet. Muffet got a chance to see me play at some of the national AAU tournaments. And I was basically an invited walk-on onto the Notre Dame team. I was treated exactly the same as the other players. The only difference, I didn't get a scholarship. So again, it's very blessed, in my opinion, to be able to play for someone like Muffet. Muffet actually is going to be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame here in Springfield next month, and I hope to be there in attendance. She is one of the greats of the game that actually shows that. But what's more impressive about Muffet than her knowledge of the game and the amount of wins that she has put on the table since she started coaching, even back at Lehigh, is she hasn't changed, and she certainly takes care of her players. So benefited from both sides, from both high school and college in that respect. In terms of, excuse me, in terms of Notre Dame, in terms of my career there, I didn't really play much as a freshman, because I was a walk-on and there were some recruited kids that were better. And I spent my freshman year really just working on getting better. Was able to play with some very talented players for sure. And we actually ended up winning our league our freshman year. Again, game in and game out, didn't see much action, but in practices, those were really our games. And Muffet really set up an environment where players got better. Competition was every drill. I was just very fortunate to be able to see it firsthand, and I worked really hard. I had an assistant coach who took me and restructured my shot, so got like 300 reps in before every practice freshman year, and so on and so forth. Rolling into my sophomore year, Muffet actually recruited the top backcourt combination in the country out of the Philly area, including the number one player in the country. So it probably didn't look very good for me to get any time, but what ended up happening is we struggled a little bit sophomore year. One of those guards actually was injured, and there was a game where Muffet injected me into the starting lineup, maybe just as a change of pace. We ended up winning by 20, and my minutes went right to 38 minutes per game, so pretty minimal at that point in time. Very fortunate that she had a competitive-based program and played a ton of minutes sophomore, junior, senior year. Was fortunate to be named captain both my junior, senior year. And we won a couple conference championships and got a chance to get into the NCAA tournament. So it was a tremendous experience, and one of the reasons we started this AAU program was that we wanted to give kids in New England the opportunity to experience some of the same things that I got a chance to experience, both from John at Nashua and Muffet at Notre Dame. And, what started as, I also had a younger sister who played, and so that was a big part of it as well. And there was a couple parents that really pushed me to coach a team. And, between those three factors, this is where we are today. So, the New England Crusaders is really, really a template of the stuff that John built out, and then we added obviously a lot of the basketball type stuff, the higher level basketball stuff that Muffet exposed me to.
Nice. So you started your coaching, though. You started high school, right? You took over for John Fragula.
Yeah. So what happened is I went overseas to play in Switzerland once I finished up at Notre Dame for a year, and I came back and I started my professional career. I work in the tech space. And then around that time frame when I got back from Switzerland was when we started the AAU program. But it started out as a younger age group team, a one-team club, if you will. So I did that for a couple of years. And then probably 4 or 5 years down the road, might have been 3 or 4, John actually made a decision to retire. And that was after your senior year, Jen. And so I did apply for the job, but really, with the success that he had, I mean, we're talking someone who at one point had 120 wins in a row in the New England region. He had 70 in a row nationally. I mean, the teams I played on went out and played in national tournaments every year. So they went out and played at Christ the King, down in Tennessee. We played Oregon City. The Oregon City coaches joke all the time that Nashville put Oregon City on the national map. We played in my sophomore year in high school. So I didn't really think I had a shot in terms of getting and landing the Nashville job. But I threw my name in the ring and figured what the heck. And I was selected. And so obviously I was honored to be selected. And the team at the time, as you well know, Jen, had lost a significant amount of talent in your class. I think there were 2 or 3 Division I players in that class, and some very good athletes. I think some athletes who ended up being Division I players in other sports. So we had a lot of work ahead of us, but the kids really worked hard and did a nice job. And I had them for a couple years, and unfortunately, the market tanked, and the tech industry changed a little bit, and some of the concessions I had made with clients in terms of being able to get out for practices and whatnot were no longer in play. And so I had to really make a decision between coaching high school and maybe getting a job where that was more conducive in my career. And I decision to stay with my career and continue basketball on the AAU front.
Nice. So you started the Crusaders, I feel like it was like early 2000, and you have built them into a pretty recognized group in the country. What have you done to kind of make the AAU Crusaders such a predominant team in the country?
Well, I've always said about our organization, the players and families make our organization, and I think that's really true. On that front, on the other side, we really work hard to teach the kids the game of basketball, and it's been interesting over the last 5 to 7 years with the huge influx and influence from the men's game. How a lot of people talk about basketball IQ, and they overuse that term, but we really focus on treating the kids early, like they were players, and not being afraid to teach them advanced concepts and hold them accountable. And really the goal, and I said this to a lot of our kids, is by the time they're going into their senior year, that last summer, the goal is for them to be able to coach the team. You teach them the stuff so they can make decisions. And so, obviously there's an emphasis on skills development, a lot of emphasis on kids doing stuff on their own, because we only get them a couple days a week. So, we have a lot of youngsters who will put in 500 reps a day, who will work with a strength coach like yourself, who will go out and play against guys. But they also need to know the game. They need to know how to make the reads in game, and so on and so forth. So I think that really probably is what differentiates us. And what's fun is it's a lot of former female players. Very fortunate that a lot of my former players are involved in the space. We've got a bunch out in college coaching, but many of them take a pit stop with us and volunteer their time before they head out. Obviously, Lauren's involved with our program now. She played at Bentley. Steph Murphy just finished up with us, and Courtney Anderson over the last couple of years. One's an assistant at the University of Maine now. The other one, Steph, just accepted a position at the University of Vermont. Both former players who we were very fortunate to have within our program as coaches before they headed off into their coaching careers. So it's really fun on that. And we've also had the opportunity to involve Kim Benson, a former Holy Cross player down in the Boston metro region. Her daughter's a starting point guard for Harvard. Kim's a tremendous coach, has spent many years as a high school coach and been in this AAU space. So I just think it's fantastic that we've been able to involve her and her family. And it just makes us stronger. So I think we have a lot of high school coaches that are involved with our program as well, and a lot of respect from the high school programs. And I think that goes a long way as well in terms of identifying young athletes who could be pretty good and then recommending them over to us and recommending those families take a look at our program.
Nice. For everyone listening, if you guys have a second, I would go check out Kara's website, because if you look at all the coaches that have helped coach her AAU program, there's some pretty impressive names. So I was fortunate that Kara's a little older than me, but I played with her younger sister. So I had Kara around a lot when we were practicing. So I was able to experience how much Kara knows the game. She works in the fundamentals. Again, I had John Fragula. So I have two pretty good, important role models that knew the game well. So Kara, I know you work a lot on the fundamentals, but when you go to an AAU tournament, I think there's two sides of the AAU. One is you want to build a team, build the player development, and then there's others that just want to get the best team and they want to win, 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 win. When you guys get to the AAU tournament, what is your focus with your team?
Yeah, it really depends on the age group, to be honest with you, Jen. So, there's always the win or develop. Or can you win and develop? I think with our younger age groups, the push is for development. And very much we will play scenarios where we'll, the typical scenario, you've got the young big kid who maybe not very skilled. They're going to play a lot because they've got a lot of size. Let's say down in 5th, 6th, 7th grade. But do you not play them because they maybe are missing layups, or do you give them that experience? And it's a juggle because, so on and so forth. So we tend to play the kids more when they're younger in that regard. As we get older, and certainly in the EYBL circuit, we make it very clear to the parents we're playing to win when we get into those EYBL tournaments per se. But we have various other teams at the higher level where we'll push, hey, maybe we're going to put a kid in a situation they're not successful, they're not familiar with, so they can learn it. Hopefully they're successful, but they may not be, but then they can take it back to their high school space and they've had practice at it. So it's interesting to see how things have developed. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at why your program's in place. And we've always said that we want to teach the kids the game of basketball and provide them with an opportunity to get to the next level. And that could be to get to the D1 level, D2, or D3. I mean, as many people know, it's extremely competitive to get into some of these little Ivies and academic elite Division III programs. And basketball is a vehicle where they can add an extra notch for the admission process. So that piece, getting kids to the next level, will always be one of our goals. And I think that plays a part in terms of how each team delivers playing time throughout the various tournaments. Again, we play local tournaments, and then we'll play those national tournaments, and the communication is, hey, look, in the case of the top team, hey, we're playing to win in this EYBL league.
Yeah, of course. I mean, times have changed. When we played AAU, we'd play one game. If you lose, you're going home. It's not like you got to play 5 games. So I completely agree that as you get to the higher level with the older teams, you should be playing to win, because as you said, you're preparing these girls to play D1, D2, and D3. And when they get to college, the coaches are going to play to win. They're not going to play every girl on the bench. So I think you do a fantastic job of preparing your players to play at the next level if that is their goal.
Right. And like I said, I have to defer. We have a great coaching staff, and they do a tremendous job. We work with our coaching staff, too. Last year, we got them out to the USAB clinic they ran down here in the Boston area. We try to give our coaches opportunities to continue to grow. Again, many of them are high school coaches, so they're doing that on their own anyway. But something like a USAB coaches clinic where, USAB brought in USA Basketball, is what I mean by USAB, is bringing in some of their top clinicians to show a different way to maybe teach the same thing. I think there's a lot of lift in that space.
Nice. So to change directions a little bit, because I know the answer to this, but I want you to touch on this a little bit. So I know that you use a local strength coach with your teams when you can. Just your thoughts on why it is important that these young girls are strength training to go along with their skill development and on-court play.
Yeah, so I think it's, obviously injury prevention. So what we do is very light, but it's really to get our kids introduced to a strength and conditioning coach and get them either to get involved with him or get involved with someone in their local area. We are actually a federally recognized 501c nonprofit. All our coaches volunteer their time. We have a board of directors, and our board of directors pushed the edict to try to look at things we could do for injury prevention. And one of the things we landed on was bringing a strength and conditioning resource. The one we actually use is Top Fitness out of the Nashville area, to bring them in once a week with our kids. Work is a lot more plyo work and agility and footwork, and really to introduce those guys to such a resource so they can go out to their local communities and start getting involved with one. So, obviously during the in-season stuff, push with them the fact that they can be involved with someone if their high school doesn't have one, 2 times a week for maintenance, and then off-season really get with a strength coach to get involved 3 days a week to really start to push their strength. And again, the stronger you are, the less injury you have, the more pliable you are, stronger you are, the less injury you have. The female athlete, as you well know, and Jen, you could describe it better than me, the quad to ham ratio with the ACL injury prevention, that was really the driver with our board, is just looking at ways to minimize those sorts of injuries. So that's what we do. I mean, it's I would call it a light scenario. Ideally, I have our kids 5 days a week where we can bring them into a weight room and get them involved, but we don't have the physical facilities. Plus, we have youngsters coming from Boston and from Western Mass and from, the Seacoast, New Hampshire. So we've got a little bit of a geographic sprawl. Connecticut, we've got a geographic sprawl within the workings of our club.
I just think it's I'm a big fan that you include the strength and conditioning part with the practices. I mean, you recognize why it needs to happen, but it's also preparing these kids in college. They're absolutely going to lift. And I've spoke to some pretty high-level strength coaches in the college scene, and they say that when the kids come to them, they have like 0 IQ when it comes to strength and conditioning. So I think that's great that you're trying to introduce it at an early age. So Kara, I've loved talking with you for the last 20 or so minutes. Is there anything else you want to touch on, what you think is important? AAU scene, coaching, in your opinion? I mean, you've been doing this a long time. So anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, in fact, I just got off the phone with a youngster's family in New England who's interested in our club for the fall season. And the feedback I got from them was, there's really no blueprint for this college recruiting process. And, one of the things that I would advise families to do is really get to understand whether it's club or high school, what the program can offer, and make sure that when you're going through this process and the development of the player, and this probably goes across all sports, that it's not only there's an emphasis on skills development, but really understanding the game. I mean, the feedback we get from college coaches at Division I and II level is there's a lot of remedial teaching of these kids on things that should be standard protocol. So you've got some really high-level athletes today, but they go in and they don't know what a split screen is, and they don't know what a bump is, because a lot of these kids, particularly in the girls' basketball space, are playing glorified pickup in the AAU space. And when they get to college, there's very few roll the ball out systems in college. So they got to learn how to reverse the ball a couple times. They got to learn how to make reads on plays. It can't be just, I'm more athletic than you and I can get to the rim. And I think it's important for families to make sure that their youngsters, you got to have a little bit of both. You got to have that fluid play, but make sure you get your daughters involved with scenarios and situations. It can be just in the park where they can make reads and understand those things. Because the more they can do that at the prep level and the youth level, the quicker they'll get on the floor at the college level. And again, college coaches now have summer school where they can actually work with the kids. They have, obviously preseason, they have individuals that they can work with up to 4 players. I don't think that rule has changed. The question I asked some of them, I asked my college teammate who's actually a head coach at Penn State, do you like that rule where you're working with the kids more, where you have to work with them in the summer? And she said yes. And she said yes for those reasons, that these kids are very skilled. They can hit jump shots, they're athletic, they're long, but the average kid struggles today versus 5, 6, 7 years ago on making those reads, meaning there's not as many of those kids that are college ready, and they need these workouts to get them up to speed. So my advice to families is make sure that your youngster gets both the get out in the park and play pickup against guys, but also truly understands how to do more than just, one screen on the ball and go to the rim.
Nice. That's a great piece of advice. It's all about the fundamentals, and then we can kind of build from there. So Kara, if anyone wants to kind of look into what you're doing, where can they find you? What's the website for the New England Crusaders?
Yeah, so we're in the process of lifting our website. Again, a 501c, all of us have day jobs. So we're in the process of lifting our website. Our website is NECrusaders, and that's plural.com. So you can go there and get some information. Our most up-to-date information, though, are out on our social media sites. So we encourage people to go to Twitter, and our handle is @NECrusaders. We also have a Facebook page, but we do encourage folks to go to our Twitter page, and you'll see up-to-date information on, some of our former players, our programming, our fall season, our upcoming spring season, so on and so forth. So, and they certainly can email as well. The email address is right on the Twitter site, so they can email and reach out if they have any questions.
Awesome. Kara, thank you so much for your time. Definitely gave some great pieces of advice. I learned a lot from you, as always, when I talk to you. So I look forward to seeing you soon.
Great. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it.